Hello everyone, this is John. In the last video we covered the basics of how people make decisions, but that was just the warm-up. Today we're looking at the big picture. Why are some countries rich while others are poor? Why does printing money actually make you poorer? And what is the invisible hand that secretly controls everything you buy? These are the final six principles of economics that explain how the entire world works, and let's get into it. So, moving straight on to principle number 5. Trade can make everyone better off. Now, it's easy to think of trade like a sports competition, where if one country wins, the other loses. But economics tells us that this isn't true. Trade is actually more like a group project where everyone does the part that they're best at. Imagine if your family had to exist in total isolation. You'd have to grow all your food on your own, sew your own clothes, and build your own house. You probably wouldn't have time for anything else. But trading with others, we can specialize, and you can be great in graphic designer or a doctor or a farmer, and trade your skill for everything else that you might need. And this specialization allows us to enjoy a much greater variety of goods and services at a lower cost than if we try to do it ourselves. Uh, so straight on to principle number 6. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Historically, we've seen the collapse of centrally planned economies like the Soviet Union, where the government decided exactly what to produce and who got it. Today, we mostly rely on market economies. In a market economy, those decisions aren't made by a government official, they're made by millions of households and firms. Adam Smith, back in 1776, described this famously as the invincible hand. This sounds mysterious, but it's really just prices. When you buy coffee, you are sending a signal that you want coffee. That price signal ripples through the economy, telling farmers to grow more beans and cafes to hire more baristas. No government order is needed. The market organizes itself. So, if you want to vote for something, like vote for your wallet, that's what people say all the time, and I think that this holds really true, for the economy we're living right now. So, for the seventh principle, governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. Markets aren't perfect, which brings us to the invisible hand again. And if it is so great, why do we need the government? Well, two big reasons: efficiency and equality. First, markets need rules. The invisible hand can't work if people are stealing from each other. The government enforces property rights so you can own things safely. And second, sometimes markets fail on their own. We call this market failure. A classic example is an like externality, like pollution. A factory might produce cheap steel, but if it pollutes the air, it's hurting the community. The market doesn't account for that cost naturally, so the government steps in with regulations. Another failure is market power, like a monopoly. If there is only one internet provider, let's say in town, they can charge whatever they want. But the government steps in to keep competition fair, and that's very, important. And let's move on to principle number 8. Explains why some countries are rich while other countries are poor. A country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. The difference in living standards around the world is staggering. Why? It almost entirely comes down to one word: productivity. Productivity is simply how much a worker can produce in an hour. In countries where workers have access to great tools, technology, and education, they can produce a lot quickly. This creates more value, which translates to higher incomes and a better standard of living. So, when we talk about public policy, like improving schools or investing in technology, we're really talking about boosting our productivity. And finally, the inflation and the business cycle. We've all heard of inflation. It's when prices for everything go up. But what causes massive high inflation? In almost every case in history, the culprit is the same. The government created too much money. Like this is happening right now, like Donald Trump is trying to do with Powell and all that things. He wants to bring rates down, and you know, the bad thing is that maybe inflation is going to rise. Uh, think of it this way: if we suddenly doubled the amount of gas everyone has, but we didn't double up the amount of cars, houses, and food available, the only thing that can happen is that prices go up. The value of money itself drops. And about the business cycle, well, society faces a short-term trade-off between inflation and unemployment. This one is a little bit tricky, but important for understanding a business cycle. When the government increases the amount of money in the economy, it stimulates spending. More spendings mean businesses sell more, so they hire more workers. That's great, unemployment goes down. But that same high demand eventually pushes prices up, causing inflation. So, in the short run, like over a year or two, policymakers often have to choose: do we want lower unemployment with risk of higher inflation, or lower inflation with risk of higher unemployment? This trade off is central to understanding recessions and booms. And those are the final principles of economics. Thanks for watching this one, and hopefully the next videos are going to be better. I'm trying to not only learn economics but also making videos, and I hope that we're going to grow together. Thank you for watching.